Hello, and welcome to Open Stance, the podcast. This is your host, Tracy Height-Smith. This four-part series is a confronting journey into the heart of domestic violence, where our guests share personal stories discussing the emotional and physical abuse towards a partner, former partner, or family member. We have the privilege to listen to brave and intensely personal conversations of victim survivors and frontline domestic violence advocates who share confronting insight, educating our audience on what domestic and family violence is, who is at risk, what domestic violence involves, and what forms it can take. And through these tough conversations, we learn about the harrowing aftermath of domestic violence and the lifelong impact it has on individuals and communities around the world. In this episode, we hear from Ashton Wood, founder and CEO of Australian charity DV Safe Phone. Established in response to COVID-19 lockdowns, DV Safe Phone collects, repurposes, and gifts mobile phones to victims of domestic violence in need. This is done in partnership with registered charities, safe houses, and law enforcement authorities serving this vulnerable community. A practical, community-driven initiative, DV Safe Phone has to date facilitated the delivery of over 3,000 safe phones to enable victims to access help when it is needed most. Please welcome Ashton Wood to Open Stance. Good morning, Ashton.
Good morning, Tracy.
How are you today?
Very good, thank you. Looking forward to this.
Welcome to Open Stance, the podcast. It's really great to have you today. And this is Ashton Wood, everybody. He's the founder of an Australian charity called DV Safe Phones. And Ashton, I'm just going to let you jump right in and introduce yourself to our audience and let them know about your charity and what you founded, what your team does, and who you are.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, my name's Ashton Wood, and I founded a charity called DV Safe Phone. It certainly wasn't something I'd planned on doing. I run another business and I used to travel a lot, interstate and overseas. And when COVID hit, all the travel stopped. So the work didn't, because everyone then just moved to online, right? But the travel did, and I ended up having a lot of spare time on my hands that I wasn't sitting in airports or on planes. So decided to clean up the house and fill the car with goods to donate to charity. And this is back in April 2020. Here in Queensland, and loaded the car up, but got lazy and decided not to take it literally 5 minutes up the road to the charity shop. Thought I'll just do it tomorrow, can't be bothered today. And that night here in Queensland, we went into lockdowns, so everything was shut down. So I had a carload of goods ready to go and nowhere to take it. So I thought, someone's got to want this stuff. It wasn't junk. So I rang the only person I could think of, and it was an ex-police senior sergeant who I'd met a number of times at the Chambers of Commerce meetings here on Sunshine Coast. And I had a number, so I gave her a call and said, look, Janine, I've got a carload of stuff. Everything's been shut down. It's not junk. Where do I take it? Have you got someone's home or a safe house or something? And I had no idea about domestic violence at this stage, but I just knew she dealt with, that was the industry she was in. And she said to me, Ashton, what I need right now are mobile phones. I'm like, did you say mobile phones? She goes, yeah. I said, but I've got a carload of stuff for you. She goes, no, that's good. We'll need that too. But right now, we need phones. And I said, what on earth do you need phones for? And she said, it's one of the first things to get smashed, taken, or monitored during domestic violence. And she said, there's a lot of support out there for people going through domestic violence. But if they don't have access to a phone they can use to call for help, then we can't enact any of the plan, any of the safety plan or the escape plan. And I said, well, what do you mean? Why can't people call? Everyone's got phones. And she's like, Ashton, you have no idea. Like, their phones are being monitored, they're tracked, they're taken from them, they're smashed. Quite often that is one of the main things that is done, in domestic violence to stop the victim calling out for help. And I said to her, well, I've got two phones in my drawer. I mean, I just wait for the next, as soon as my plan runs out, I'll go and get the latest phone, and the old one just goes in my drawer. So I had two phones that were perfectly good. I said, oh, you can have them. They're perfect. And she said, Ashton, those old phones could save a life. So that's how the whole thing started. I said to her, well, how many do you need? And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, I've got friends in corporate. I work in corporate, so I know we've all got phones because we just upgrade and throw them in our drawers. And I know there's corporates that have got boxes of phones I don't know what to do with. So how many do you need? And she said, you'll never get me enough, Ash. There's over 2 million victims. And I was pretty shocked. I said, wow, that's a big number. I said, I don't know about getting you 2 million phones, but I can certainly start. I said, out of interest, what countries are you going to send these phones to? And she goes, what countries? I said, yeah, well, 2 million is a lot of people. Like, what countries? Thinking, they're going to Papua New Guinea, where are they going? And she said, Ashton, what rock have you been living under? This is just here in Australia. So that's what started the whole thing. So I put the call out to mates, and long story short, we're now set up as a full-blown charity. We're getting donated phones from all over Australia, and we give phones all over Australia to any registered police station, any registered DV agency, any safe house, any hospital even. If it's a public place we send phones to, we put it on the map. So any victims who are looking for phones can go to our website, get on our map, and see all the locations that we're sending phones to, so they can reach out to them for one of our phones and all the other assistance they can offer. We only offer phones, that's it. We don't do any other services because, as I said, my expertise is not in domestic violence, but it is in IT and it is in marketing. So I knew I could get phones and test them and get them out the door. And so far we've received nearly 10,000 phones from all across Australia.
Question, how many phones are available and how many agencies have taken on?
Yeah, so we've received nearly 10,000 phones from across Australia, from generous individuals and companies and Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and lots of different inner wheel. So lots of community groups are getting involved. We've sent out around 3,200 of those phones because a lot were coming in pretty severely damaged and still are, cracked screens and batteries that are not going to be suitable for the job. So we're trying to see how we can go with getting more donations and grants and funding, because we've got enough phones here to employ 5 full-time techs if we had the money to bring them in and buy all the parts we need to fix those phones. So at the moment, what we're doing is getting through the ones that come in that are in fairly good condition. And that's how we've managed to get, already 3,200 of them out the door, which is amazing. So there's over 3,200 people now with safe phones in their hands.
Wow, that leads to the next question. So you have all these agencies across Australia that are able to distribute a safe phone for victims of domestic violence.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit more about who the victims are.
Yep.
And from your experience. So number one, you said that you don't have domestic violence or family domestic violence experience in your life.
No.
And this is all new.
Well, I thought I knew one person. So I honestly thought I knew one person who had been through domestic violence when I started this whole charity. And since going out to just my network on LinkedIn, I am shocked at how many people have come back to me who I've worked directly with. I've been in bid teams in rooms with these people for weeks and months at a time, dealing with big contracts, and it's never come up. It's never been discussed. I had no idea what these people have been going through or have been going through, their families, their kids, their parents even. It's I was shocked at how many people are now talking about it, now that we just talk about donating your old phone. So it is really opened my eyes to the severity of it here in Australia.
Right. So the victims in a domestic violence situation, predominantly you're looking at women, but then you've got family domestic violence where an entire family and surrounding family members are involved, and that is including mothers, women, and children. Who is able to receive these phones? What if a mother's too scared or a woman's too scared and there's children involved? Are children allowed to receive these phones in order to help? They may in fact be victims themselves. So who specifically, are there age restrictions around this? Do they, and talk a little bit about, from the victim side of things, with what ease can a victim feel safe to get one of these, learn how to use it? Where do they store it? How does that process look for someone that would be frightened about taking this step to go receive?
Yeah, they're really good questions, Tracy. So firstly, we don't discriminate. Domestic violence does happen to anyone, humans, men, women, children, elderly, the lot. So we know it's predominantly women, absolutely. So we will provide DV safe phones for free to any domestic violence or law enforcement agency, no matter who they deal with. So we don't discriminate at all. A victim, in my mind, a victim is a victim. So anyone who's a registered agency can get our phones. We rely on the agency and their expertise around all the wraparound services for the victims, but we understand that there are programs at the moment that provide funds to victims. There's housing, there's clothing, there is a lot of support out there for people to reach out. The challenge is them having the confidence to actually reach out. A lot of the agencies we deal with help them with setting up what we call a safety or escape plan, which is about connecting the victim with their support network, which may not be a professional service, it might be their best friend, where they have clothes sitting there ready to go with their best friend, and their best friend knows that, look, when they get that call, the victim's going to literally jump the back fence and get picked up in the next street and get out of there. So there is actually a lot of support available for people going through it. But yeah, that first jump is huge. The official stats are that it takes 8 or 9 occurrences of domestic violence before people have the confidence and support to leave. And unfortunately, each time domestic violence happens, it normally is worse every single time. So, you know, we all hope that people can get the support they need and get out before it becomes hospitalisation. As I said before, we provide phones to hospitals very quietly for free, because obviously hospitals get massive funding, right? But by the time it comes down to the nurse looking after someone who's come in with, you know, they're in a hospital, so they've been pretty severely harmed, but that person wants to go back home because they've got kids and pets and belongings and they can't just get out. So that nurse is saying, well, geez, we need to give you some way to call for help next time this happens, because it will happen again. So with our phones, the idea is that they get into the hands of a victim through an agency, through police, through a hospital, and they take the phone home and hide it. And they're educated about where to hide it and how to hide it the best way. And it stays turned off, so we provide it fully charged. We do provide SIM cards where we have funding available to put SIM cards in, or give the agency SIM cards to help them with the people. And the phone's turned off in a cupboard, charged, ready to go.
So talk about that. Can you share a little bit more about the SIM card? So there's a cost involved in that, of course, and somebody that receives a DV safe phone, would they be worried about the SIM card running out? Or if it's an ongoing situation and we know it could be months down the track where something escalates, is that phone still going to be available for them if the SIM card runs out? Is that a cost they take on themselves, or can they have it reinstated or recharged or booted?
Yeah, so all the phones we send out, we make sure they're not network locked, so they can have any SIM card put in them. Any phone can be used in Australia to call 000 even without a SIM card, and it will just find the strongest. It's a really good system in Australia, so it'll find the strongest network. So worst case, if the SIM card has 0 credit or doesn't even exist and it's just a phone, a mobile phone without a SIM card, the victim can still call 000 and get help.
So that's a really important piece of information for agencies to deliver. In the worst case scenario, your phone will always call 000.
Correct, yes. However, most victims want to call their support network. So what we've done is I've looked for the best SIM card sort of we could get in Australia, and LD Mobile is the only one that does a $5 prepaid SIM that will last for a whole year before it expires. Whereas most of them, you'll pay $10, $15, $20 for a prepaid SIM and it expires after 30 days, which is kind of useless if you're going to put it in a cupboard and hide it. So what we've been doing is buying LD SIM cards and putting them in with the cards, with the phones. But again, it's only subject to us being able to get money to do it, because every phone we send out costs us money. I put a brand new charger cable with it. We pay for the postage for the phones to go out. We're paying for people in here and volunteers and all the operating costs to run the charity.
Do you have a breakdown of what each phone actually approximately costs for you to service and have it ready for distribution?
Yeah, so it's a $5 prepaid SIM, a $15 top-up credit, a charger cable, and postage. So it's around a $30 mark, not including, like I said, we have volunteers. We've got a few staff here that help us part-time keep things running. But so our proper cost, if we included everything, would be around sort of $40 to $50 a phone.
So if somebody was willing to, if somebody was willing to donate and they knew that number was $45 or $50 and
Oh yeah,
that was their
yeah,
donation point, they could feel as if they were potentially saving somebody's life with that donation.
absolutely, yes, yes, definitely. That would definitely help us get a phone out the door. Yeah, and that
So
also allows
Ashton,
us to there's phones that need screens repaired, so we've got a guy that's helping us get screens at a really good price at the moment, which is great, but it's still a cost. We're currently sitting in a space which is free rent, but we're on borrowed time because I've just put the building up for sale. So we're going to have to move, and we're looking to probably have to take on a lease with that. So yeah, there's definitely lots of costs around it, but as I said, a phone out the door is a phone out the door, and we're rushing about over 100 phones a week out the door at the moment.
100 phones a week. Wow.
Yeah. So
what about, I have one more question on just following up and wrapping up the device itself and when it goes to a victim. So that was really important information, the 000 ability for the phone to call. What about, do any apps go out on this phone already uploaded, or do you have any resources, hotlines, crisis lines? Do you have any support organization information as part of this phone so a victim can quickly find these support services that are available? Because in most cases, they probably don't know they even exist. If they even know they're in a domestic violence situation, they've got a lot going on. Probably not sitting around researching this all day. Do you have those type of things available?
Yeah, so the phones go out fully reset, so they're like receiving a brand new phone. And we're seeing a lot of iPhone 7s at the moment because we're getting a lot of them coming in from financial institutions. But when we send them out and they're received by the agency sits down with the victim to set the phone up. And when they turn on, it will be the full reset as if it's come brand new in a box. So you've got to go through the whole language settings, and we have an instruction sheet with it to say, look, it's a brand new phone, treat it like a brand new phone. Do not sign it back into your old iCloud accounts or anything like that, because the perpetrator will quite often be on that as well, and they'll
set you off as a new device. Could you please repeat that? That was very important.
Yep. So don't sign your new phone, your DV safe phone, set up a new identity. You're getting a new SIM card with a new phone number anyway. So complete a new identity, because the perpetrator, there's so many smart things you can do now with phones, which has made life really easy, but it's also made it really easy to track people and know what they're up to. So, the standard on every iPhone is a Find My Phone feature, which allows you to track a phone within a meter of where it is. There are bunches of other apps that can do it even better. So when we give a phone out, we have a piece of paper that goes to the agency that says, don't sign this into any of the victim's existing accounts. This is a brand new phone. Set up a new iCloud account if they're going to download apps. But it is a brand new phone, and keep it as a brand new identity.
Okay, so that leaves a little bit of leeway and creativity for the agency. And if so you're saying that the victim is actually working directly with a professional with an agency, setting up that phone in a safe environment, so all their questions can be asked, help with the phone, setting it up. If you're someone that's not good with technology, or if you're a teenagers do other technology, an elderly person that may be not comfortable with the phone. Would that also allow a channel for these agencies to have a raft of organizations, support apps or critical resource apps, websites that they could install at the time of delivery, so that in times of crisis or in emergency situations, a victim can quickly have that information available to them?
Yeah, we recommend they put their primary numbers, like their support network numbers, into that new phone, into the contacts, so that they've got those numbers on hand straight away. So when they turn the phone on, they don't have to remember phone numbers of who they need to call. The other thing we have is we have developed an app as well. So I got speaking to the police about this and said, look, help me understand this. I haven't come from this industry. Why don't perpetrators just get locked up? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, there's DVOs if people are doing bad things, and now there's jail time if they breach the DVO. So why are people not just locked up? And they said, I wish it was that easy. It's not that easy. They said it takes a lot of evidence to build the DVO and to go to court, and there's a bit of a process behind it. I said, so what's the issue with the evidence? And I said, well, think about it. How are people going to keep notes? I said, well, you tell me. And I said, well, they can't keep notes at home because if that gets found, all hell's going to break loose. I said, well, what about apps? And they said, no, because if they download an app to their phone, the partner's probably sharing the same account and they'll see it come down and they'll say, what is this? And they said, the other thing is sometimes the victim might download an app and the kids might be playing with mum's phone and notice it and just, not mean anything by it, just go, oh, what's this thing? And expose it, right? So we had an app developer reach out and said,
sorry,
do you need any help? An app developer reached out to me and said, do you need any help with anything? I said, yeah, we need to make an app that's hidden. So we've made an app and we provide information of that in the pack, and it downloads as a secret app. So it literally can't be found on the phone unless you know what you're doing. And it's hidden behind another app as well. So in the packs that go out to all the agencies, we provide access to this free app, and that's to go on the victim's primary phone, so the one they're always using. That way they're not having to go to the cupboard to quickly record something that might have happened. They can literally be sitting there on the phone and it has date, time, they can upload photos and videos, and then that gets emailed to an email account they've set up in the app, which could be their best friend. It could be an account their partner doesn't know about, or it could be an agency they work with. And it just keeps that log of the incidents that are happening, so that once they get the support they need and they're out and they want to take further action with DVOs or whatever it might be, then they've got this history of everything that's happened, because it's hard to remember dates and times and exactly what was said later on.
That's type of information that you learn when you spend a lot of time within this industry. When you study domestic violence and family domestic violence, I'd love you to share that just a little bit more. So 2 things that you brought up, which is evidence. And if you're in a domestic violence situation, it's so important to understand that in order to take action, that will be required. So number 1, knowing that. Number 2, you've mentioned how scary that can be and how dangerous that can be to take any kind of evidence and recording in a journal or note-taking or on your phone. It will get discovered and can enhance the chance of or endanger yourself even more. So the evidence taking part of that, is that something that the agencies spend a little bit of time with a victim to say, number 1, this is what you're going to need in a court of law. You can do this, but you can do it do they take time to draw that parallel and give that understanding?
I can't speak on behalf of all agencies. So we're sending phones to about 140 different agencies around Australia at the moment. So I honestly can't speak on how much time they have to spend with people at the initial points or throughout. But we do deal with agencies here locally, obviously more often because they pop in here to get phones from us to save us a bit of postage. And some deal with families, so women and kids, and they make sure that the families are well aware of what's required to escape, take action and keep themselves safe. And your question earlier about, are phones available for kids as well, we leave that totally up to the agency. And we know some agencies do. They ask for the older style phones that they can give to the kids to take to school, so the kids can actually make contact when they're out of the home about what's going on at home.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And this is just a brainstorm, but when I hear about this and I understand the impact that domestic violence and family violence has directly on children and teens, wouldn't it be amazing and impactful to have this kind of education and availability of the DV Safe phone brought to the attention within schools? Because there are many, many kids living in silence and living in these environments every day. But if they were to become aware that, for example, hypothetically, if it was their mother that was a victim, but they know these safe phones are available, and if there was an age restriction that was a barrier for them, they could tell a safe person in their life or someone else that might be able to help guide that mother or get someone else to get the DV Safe phone on their behalf and help in that way.
Yeah,
somebody might be terrified and not want to take that step, but you may be empowering another family member that is able to do that.
Yeah. We've had a few schools locally do DV Safe Phone Collection Day. So they've collected phones from the school community and funds as well, and come in, and one school donated $120 they'd collected through donations for us. And that was a really good conversation starter for the school, for this group of students who took it on and took it into the school and spoke at the assemblies about it. And it's a big conversation starter about domestic violence. So it worked well. It got us phones in the door. It got us some funds as well. And it, like you said, it started that conversation with, these were year 10 students. So it started a good conversation with them.
It all starts with a conversation and just getting it out there and making that awareness available.
Yeah.
Do you have any personal stories to share? You've delivered all these phones, over 3,000. I know we've spoken, and I know you have a 5-year plan of delivering. Is it 20,000 phones you'd like to see across Australia?
Yep.
Do you have any personal experience of a victim that you've heard that this has been a crucial safety resource for them?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback from the agencies. So there's we've noticed a few agencies are ordering more and more often from us. Where we'd originally offered them 10 phones, and like, oh, how's this work? We go, well, it's free, 10 free phones. And so they've started coming back more and more often to get more and more phones from us. And one of the people here sat with them and said, "So what's changed? You seem to be getting more and more phones." And they said, "Yeah, well, originally, the phones were the last thing we discussed because they're expensive. They're, for a decent phone, a couple $100. We're busy trying to get clothing and accommodation, taxi vouchers, all those sorts of things. We're trying to help the victim with her escape plan and get out of trouble. We wouldn't really talk about the phone much because we knew we couldn't do anything about it. Like, we just don't have the funding to go and buy every person that comes to their door a $200 phone." But they said, now that we've realized with you guys, it's literally an unlimited supply of phones. I mean, we send boxes 10 at a time so that we can manage things here. But it's literally, when they run down low, they just message us again and say we need another 10. And as long as we've got stock, they'll get another 10. So they said now it's the first thing they do. So their engagement is they'll meet a victim at a coffee shop, because they won't have the victim come to their office because the phone probably is being tracked. So the perpetrator will know where the victim's going. So they'll meet them somewhere at a coffee shop and just have a chat. And the first thing they say is your phone being tracked or monitored right now? And the victim, 9 out of 10 victims will say, yes, I know I'm being tracked right now.
There's another, sorry to interrupt, that's such an important piece of information for a victim, to anyone in the audience listening that knows somebody may be going to get a DV Safe phone, knowing that phone is being tracked, potentially being tracked, and to go to a safe space, like you said, a cafe or something inconspicuous in the very beginning. Yeah.
So that's what they do now. They have DV Safe phones with them, the agencies. They meet them at a coffee shop. They have a chat. Are you being tracked right now? Yes, I am. Okay, good. Here's your next phone. Well, not good, but here's a phone that we know is clean, not being tracked. Let's set that up right now. And that's your communication method back to us as the agency. And we know we're hearing of plans where victims are escaping, and they've got the DV Safe phone. They've organised the date and time to escape. They wait till their partner's gone to work and they leave their original phone at home. So when the partner's monitoring, they just think they're at home all day. But they've been gone for, they've got out of there. The partner's gone to work, they're out of that place. They've moved out. They've got themselves into a safe place. Might be a safe house, might be a friend's place.
And this is
the partner won't know for hours. Yeah.
And that's what you do. So you provide this safe phone. I'm just sharing different ways to see this because it's so important. So the safe phone gives that victim time and safety to work within their own parameters, to build an escape plan, a strategy to get out of there. When you have children, it's a far more complicated situation that takes time and thought. It takes a lot of guts and courage. So what you're doing is allowing the person not just to make one phone call and feel like they've got to escape that day, which is highly likely that it will fail, which is even more terrifying. So this phone gives you process time and pathway time. So by the time they are ready, all these pieces are in place, where they're going to go, who the next step is in terms of housing or support. for whatever they need.
Yeah, that's right. And the most beautiful thing is we don't want the phone back, so it's theirs to keep. We deliver them to agencies everywhere, and in fact, I walked a bunch of phones into one of the agencies up here, and it was around 20 phones I gave them, and they were all iPhone 7s. We get brand new Motorola phones arriving. We get all sorts of phones here. So I delivered this box to them personally, to their entire team of the people that deal with the survivors out there. And they said to their bosses, I've walked in and shown them the phones, and I'm unpacking them, and they've said, these are better than our phones. And they work for a large agency. And the boss is like, yeah, keep your hands off them, they're not for you. So it's beautiful to know that all the phones we're giving out, I won't let a phone go out that's got a cracked screen. I won't let a phone out that's faulty. It's got to be used for emergencies, right? But the good thing is, they're being gifted, these phones are being gifted to us. We don't need them back. The person who's gifted them to us, they don't want them back. So it's part of a new life. So we suggest put a hammer through the old phone, because it's probably being tracked anyway. It's probably got some of the damage. So stick a hammer through the old phone, put it through Mobile Master, which is any phone shop, or Officeworks, and all those have the bins that you can dump your old electronic waste into. And get rid of it and just use ours, keep ours. That's your new phone, it's part of your new life.
So Ashton, let's spend a good few minutes talking about how the different ways that we can support you. And let's take some time there. This is so important in terms of, obviously, let's talk about phone donations. Let's talk about funding, independent donations or ongoing funding for the growth of your charity. Can individuals help? Is it only organizations? Let's be specific about how just an individual in our audience today has a couple of the kids' phones sitting at home and how useful those can be. Or are you a giant telco that has loads of phones and nowhere to go with them? And then funding. Sure,
okay. So with the phones, my original campaign said, please donate your old phone. And oh my God, did we get some old phones? We've got a table here in the office full of antique phones. So we've changed that to please donate your old working phone. And that makes it a lot easier for us to test and get the phones going.
Let's say that again, folks. Please donate your old working phones if possible.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, from anybody. So, from individuals who are upgrading, the new iPhone 14's just come out. So if you're upgrading to a new iPhone, consider us for the old one, because that'll probably be an iPhone 10 or something like that, which would be amazing. I imagine if you can get an iPhone 10. So anyone who's upgrading, anyone who works for corporates that would have fleet phones that they would regularly upgrade and not know what to do with. So we do get, like Commonwealth Bank have given us 1,400 iPhone 7s that they previously would have just sold, and they went, this is so much better for us than selling phones. We're happy to give them to you. And they didn't even want any PR for it. They're like, no, we'll just do it. I was happy with that. So that's, the corporate phones are definitely the cleanest and quickest, because the corporates will always reset them properly before they send them to us. We check every phone as well. So we put a SIM card in and make test calls. But yes, anyone can donate a phone. On our website, which is dvsafephone.org, we have a map. And that's of every phone drop-off location in Australia. There's currently around 280 locations. So all Jeep dealerships in Australia, Watsos. In Queensland, we've got lots of the Suncorp banks in their branches. They physically have boxes. On the Sunshine Coast where we are, we've got heritage banks as well, and so many locations. So jump on the map and just find your local drop-off point and drop your phone in there. And then those very generous organisations will package those phones up when they get 5 or 10 of them. They'll package them up and they pay for the postage to send the phones to us. Okay. The other option is for corporates to send us phones directly, which we'd prefer, because then we will know exactly where they came from. They'll get to us a lot quicker, and we can thank them appropriately on social media as well, because it'll be all packaged up. So we've just got a post office box here in Queensland where people can send phones directly to us in the mail. And again, we'll receive them. We photograph every phone that comes in. We thank a lot of people on socials. And that's the way this works. It's just people. And
you mentioned you guys are expanding quickly, your charity, and you have big goals, very significant goals. If we have individuals or companies, organizations in our audience today listening in that would like to help on a bigger level and do some funding or donations, how would they go about that? What do you need?
Yeah, we definitely like some help with funding. A lot of people say to me, how do you make money out of this? And I'm like, yeah, I wish I thought of that when I started it, because literally we give everything away. The phones are given, the cables are given, SIM cards are given, postage. So it is every step of the way is a cost. So we are looking for corporates to get on board, and we're looking for regular donors. So corporates and regular donors would be amazing. But people can donate anything from $2 upwards through our website, and it's fully tax deductible in Australia. But yeah, our big call at the moment is we've got a campaign coming up where we're looking for regular donors who would commit to a monthly amount. That way, it helps me manage, the operational cost and knowing what I've got coming for next month. So I know, can I buy $1,000 worth of SIM cards next month or $2,000 worth of SIM cards next month? Can I buy, because the more I buy in quantity, the discounts I get, especially with the cables. So Aldi have been amazing with SIM cards. They're now giving me 25% more than what I order. So if I order $4,000 of SIM cards, they're going to send me 25% more. So they've been really supportive. With the postage, obviously that gets cheaper the more we do it. With the boxes we buy, cheaper the more we get. The cables are the same. So yeah, we're definitely looking for some corporates. As I said, there's been some very generous corporates with donating their phones, but every phone that goes out costs me money. So we need help with any corporate who would like to look at us for being the charity of choice in any campaign they might be running. This is one of the easiest corporate social responsibility plans that any corporate can get involved in, because it ticks every box. Like, it's environmentally friendly. We will try and give a phone another life that's going to probably end up in a bin. If we can't use the phone, we send it out through a recycling company. We don't get paid for it, but they pick it up for free from us. So we make sure the phones get e-waste recycled the right way. So it's very environmentally friendly. We check every phone that comes through as well. So it's part of a good second level security check. We have had phones come from corporates before that were still signed into their mobile device management system, that's still secure. It just means we've caught it before it's gone out. So we'll just go back to the corporation and say, hey, look, this is still signed in. And I go, oh, okay, we'll fix that. So they sign that back out for us. So it's another level of security check. And the best thing is it is providing a phone to those who, it's literally a life-saving device.
It is a phenomenal effort you guys are doing. Your team is so important. And what we'll do is, in all the notes of this podcast, we'll make sure that your website, all your contact details are there, include all the relevant and important details so that people can get a hold of you for funds or donations, ongoing support, however they can contribute. Ashton, thank you for your time today. Very valuable, all that information. And we look forward to supporting you as you guys grow and continue saving lives.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, we're here for a long time. We're not going anywhere. We're going to make this work and make it work well.